To all those people that came across to England for the Battle of Normandy in 1944, this is a true story I'm about to tell you, so you can pass it on to your children and grandchildren. In 1944, many people came out of this country from all their Commonwealth. Sadly, many didn't return. So tonight, I'm showing you what I've done for all these years. We're close on 30. It all started approximately 30 years ago when I had a veteran come in my cafe and he said he'd like to go back to the battlefields of Normandy, Arnhem and Dunkirk. And he said to me he could not afford it. So a week later, I started a charity hub to take veterans back called the Anglia Pilgrimage Fund. And in this time, I've took over 2,000 veterans back to Normandy, Arnhem and Dunkirk to show them their friends they left behind. So I'm now going round to show you what we have done this year for the 75th anniversary. On the 75th anniversary, in Normandy, we had taken 5,000 red roses back for all the young lads that did not return home to Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada and all the Commonwealth countries. So as I go round tonight, I will show you the things that we have done for the flower parade for this year. Here you will see the Lancaster that was in the battle for Britain and went over to Germany. Sadly, we lost over 75,000 pilots before D-Day and after. So this is a nice little arrangement that we've done just to appreciate and show the people in our area and beyond what we have done this year. So as we go around the room, we've got the submarines and torpedo boats and landing craft on show for all those young lads that was in the Pacific and all across Normandy. I've had many friends over the years that sadly now has passed away. When they used to go to Russia, they told me many stories. If they saw a boat get blown up, they wasn't allowed to stop. They saw their friends slowly passing away in the icy seas. So this is to commemorate all those young lads that fought all over the world. I think it shows you the appreciation that I've done for all the veterans throughout the world. We have got a small display here for the Polish that fought in Normandy and was in the Battle of Britain. In the Battle of Britain, I was always told that there was more Polish pilots in the Battle of Britain than there was British. I've had many experiences in Normandy where I go every year and lay fresh flowers on boys' graves. In the Falaise Gap, they called it the Valley of Death. The Poles held it with the Canadians for many days, and at the end of the battle there was 10,000 Germans laid in the valley that didn't get out. So my regards go to the Polish people and all those young lads that didn't make it home. There's a small arrangement here for the Canadians. I always meet the Lady Mark's wife in Normandy every year as we lay flowers on their cenotaph. This is what we have done for your country for the last 29 years. And I think it goes to show the appreciation that we show for your young lads. This particular wreath that we take back most years is your national flag, and it has 300 red carnations. This is put on the memorial on the beach for the Canadians every year. This is the artillery boys from England, and I've heard many stories what they did going through the Falaise to Germany. This old fella Mr. Milton, sadly has passed away. I asked him many times what he did, and in the end he did tell me, and it really amazed me. He was on a spotting tank going through to Germany, and somebody came up to him and says, "Will you take the gun emplacement out in front? We can't get by." He said, "I'm sorry," he said, "but the barrel on my tank is made out of wood." He said, "We've only got machine guns." He was a spotting tank. I mean, that's history that the younger generation should realise. This one is another nice arrangement here, and for the airborne. This old fella sadly has just passed away. He was a desert rat, and he went through to Normandy, and 3 years ago or 4 years ago he actually met Prince William, which I did and all, and he was very appreciative of what we do for the veterans. This is another nice photograph of a wreath that we take back many years. That's got 300 carnations in it. That is something for the young lads. The youngest lad that I found in Normandy is 16 years old. There's a photograph here somewhere of one young para. He's in Ranville Cemetery. He got killed on D-Day with his dog, and he's the only person has ever been buried with his dog, and his age was 22. As we go around a bit further, this is to remember the young lads of 1914-18. All this stuff on here that you see is real. This was gas masks and bullets and shells and gas masks, and these particular things here was dug up around Ypres, and those little bullets there, those things was in one of these casings, and they could adjust them on the top to when they exploded. That was in 1914-18. So as we go around to another display, this is dedicated to the Americans that came across in 1940 to help us to fight the Germans. Every year I go back to the battlefields of Normandy, and I go to the American Cemetery, Omaha. It always surprises me the amount of young lads that lay there. On D-Day itself, as we all know, they got absolutely crucified on the beaches of the American sector. And when you go and see these young lads' graves in rows and rows and rows, and it always upsets me to see the age of these young lads, because many was 17, 18, 19 and 20 and 21. There again, for the Americans, we always take a nice wreath back for them and put it on the cenotaph in the cemetery of Omaha. We do not miss anybody out. If it's possible, we always lay fresh flowers on the graves. I'm a very big believer in fresh flowers. I think a poppy looks nice and a poppy wreath, but actually I think a fresh flower shows that somebody's really thought about those young lads that gave their lives. There's a small display here of a Russian machine gun, 1944, a Brent and an old gun there. That is a fella that they call Ernie. He's roughly 96, and he drove one of these ducks in Normandy after D-Day, bringing ammunition to shore. I promised Ernie that I would buy a duck and completely restore it. So on the 75th anniversary, any veteran that would like to go back to Harrow-Manchers, to the Mulberry Harbour, I will take them back on that particular day. We must never forget the young boys of Germany. I know it was war, but I've been told many times by the veterans they couldn't believe the age group of some young boys that they was shooting. I mean, you're talking about 14, 15, 16. They could not believe the sacrifice those young lads gave. So as we go around here, these are photographs that we have taken over the past 29 years that I've been doing it. As you see, we've got some nice wreaths there from Britain, America, Paris, the Royal Air Force, the Australians, the New Zealanders, different things on the boards that represent what we have done over this many, many years. The people do appreciate what we've done as we go to Normandy. You've got the old Dakota there that pulled the gliders in on D-Day. I had a friend called Harry. He went on D-Day 1, landed at Ranville, just on the side of Pegasus Bridge. He held the Horn River Bridge, so the Germans couldn't come in from the rear. Sadly, he's passed away. When I started, I had 60 veterans every year to return, and I haven't got none of the original ones left. They've all passed away. So this one is for Malta, for all those young lads in Malta that didn't make it back, the pilots of the Spitfires and Hurricanes. We've got a little display here, and the big cannon at the back is actually one big caisson that was fired in there at Malta. The story goes that when those guns went over, there was practicing firing out to sea, and there was a big explosion, and they went out to see what it was. A shell at it, a German U-boat. So what a story. There again, there's another photograph of you Malta people that we take back over the years and lay in Normandy on the cenotaphs, so we do not forget what the Maltese people went through. We've got one on the display here. We've got the New Zealand one and the Australian one. As we go around Normandy, you see many graves of your young lads that didn't return home. So we show our appreciation the only way we can, and that is to take fresh flowers over and also lay another nice wreath on the cenotaph, once again with 300 carnations in them. So we do not forget what the Australians did and all for us. When I go to Normandy every year at Ranville Cemetery, there is two pilots lay side by side, and for their families we all lay fresh flowers on their two graves. It's only about 5 years ago or 6 years ago that they actually found one of the pilots still in his aircraft in the Horn River. His remains were buried in Ranville Cemetery, and his aeroplane parts were sent back to Australia. So to all you people in Australia, we do not forget about you. As we all know, after 1944, when the Lancaster finished, this is a model of the Vulcan bomber. What a step forward for our British Air Force, from a piston engine to this. And that is just to remember the boys that went to the Falklands and never returned in recent conflicts. So we've got some really nice photographs there. There's a tower there down where the boys left on the south coast. And we've got some nice pictures there of the Spitfires and Hurricanes that left our shores, never come back. The picture that's on the wall is a true story of a Lancaster flying down our local river at Sutton Bridge, practicing for the dam busters. The story goes that the pilot of that aircraft, before he left the base, he says to his brother, "Would you like to come along for a ride?" He said, "We're going to do a sortie." He didn't tell him they was going to fly down Sutton Bridge River, under the power line, up over that bridge, and he was actually in the front gun turret. So I say he'd be a little bit scared when he saw that. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, throughout the world, you can see what kind of display that we put on for the boys. So June the 6th next year will be my last return to Normandy with my veterans, because we are getting very, very short of veterans. So next year we will lay one rose on each of the graves of Ranville, Bayere, Tilly, and a little cemetery that's got one young lad in there at 16 years old. I'd like to go back to Jerusalem, a little cemetery, to lay a few fresh flowers. So, ladies and gentlemen, if anybody would like to donate £1 for a rose, you can do. But if not, there will be a rose on all the graves that we can get round to on D-Day, the 75th anniversary. And on that day, it will be my last time that I shall return to Normandy with veterans, but I shall still go back every year while I can to lay fresh flowers on the graves for your young soldiers. So we do appreciate what you've done for our country. Every year or so for the last 28, 29 years I've returned, and it'll be a sad day when I haven't got any more veterans left. But as we all know, old soldiers never die, they just slowly fade away. So there's a little verse that we read out at every cenotaph. They ask us why we do it, why we still parade. Now that we're getting older and just a little frayed. It isn't for the sake of glory or the medals on their chest. It's simply that they are comrades that stood that final test. On 6th of June, that faithful day, a day that we shall never forget, many a young lad laid down his life and paid that final debt. So when you see a veteran, give that man your hand, for the medal on his chest was won in many foreign lands. And when God asks the question, "Who are you, my man?" you can proudly answer, "Sir, I was a veteran man." Thank you very much for all the support you gave our country in 1940.